tonight we're doing, tonight for me anyway, I'm doing a presentation on Spooky 2 for Spooky 2 GX Pro biofeedback scan. This is for beginners. So you people that have been doing this a long time, you may find it boring and you may tune out or leave or whatever. Generally, I will answer every question in the Q&A tonight. That won't be a problem. I tend to do that. That's not an issue. Obviously, you can ask any question you want there, and I'll do my best to answer it. Certainly, the questions about biofeedback are the best ones, but I'll answer anything that I can. So let's get started with the presentation. Okay, if you like a copy of the presentation, well, one of the things that's going to happen is when the video gets posted on the Spooky 2 Academy site, there's going to be a link for the copy of presentation. That's the easiest way. However, you can send me an email with any questions, or if you want a copy of the presentation, make a note of this, spookytechhelp@gmail.com. That's my Gmail address that I use for spooky stuff. And that works pretty well. So, and I look at it at least once a day, so that won't be a problem. So you can request it if you want that way as well. Okay, this particular presentation, there's a lot to biofeedback, believe it or not. I like to keep things simple. I'll do the best I can for that, and within the time frame we have, I'll do my best for that as well. But there's 9 parts. We have introductions and backgrounds, and we're going to talk about the general biofeedback. We're going to talk about hunt and kill. We're going to talk about grade scale. We're going to talk about the sample digitizer and the sample digitizer hunt and kill, and we'll wrap up. There's a bunch more than that in this, but this is the big stuff that you need for the for biofeedback, for GX biofeedback. Okay, introduction. Okay, so one of the things that I like to do is I like to teach skills when I do my presentations. The intent is when you get done with this, you can go out right after this and start running a biofeedback scan. We should have covered everything several times, so you can, hopefully, so you feel confident that you can go right from here and do a biofeedback scan. Like I said, if you've been doing biofeedback scans for the last 2 years, you're not going to learn a whole lot from the actual presentation, I think. We'll see. So I want to talk about the biofeedback scan and the main variations. How do you save the results and how do I use it? Those are the main things we're talking about. So part 1 is who am I? Again, here's my email address, my Telegram stuff. I'm an information technology specialist. I've been doing that for a long time, since 1979. I'm a techie, okay? Keep that in mind. I'm not a frequency practitioner. If you want to figure out how to get rid of warts or how to treat this disease, I am not the one to talk to. I can help you do the searches within Spooky to figure that out. And sometimes you do stuff within Google to figure out the searches in Spooky. I can help you with that. But I can't tell you, oh, this is better than that. It's not what I do. Okay. I use Spooky for myself and my close friends and my family, and I get some feedback from that, but I've never treated breast cancer with someone or a bunch of cancer with someone and track that. So I don't have that. So and I'll be a little fidgety tonight because I have a problem with my left leg and it hurts all the time when I'm sitting. So I'm working on that, but it hasn't gone away yet. So I get to move around some. All right, now I've been a Spooky user since 2018. I have my current stuff is I have 2 GX generators, 16 XMs. I do have the colloidal silver kit. I do have a Centron plasma that I got in 23, and I have a scalar that I got in 24. And I actually have a, let's see if we'll see it. I have one of these nifty halos, and I like it. I'm using it right now to control my ADHD for the presentation. So, that's the way that is. You're welcome to contact me through my email or Telegram channel. I'm a moderator and group expert on the Spooky 2 Right for Life Facebook group. I spend a lot of time there every day. There's currently 90,000 members, and there's hundreds of posts per week. I really like it as a source for people, and we do our best there to help you out. So I find it important to talk about why I do the presentations. I find that there's a lot of people who buy Spooky 2 and they don't have a whole lot of technical skills. And so I try specifically to help with those sort of problems. That's what I do. Spooky 2 grew up, if you will, back from 2012 or 14 or whenever it was. And it's a very experimenter's type of software. So it's not the friendliest in the world if you're not pretty technical. Now, that's just the way that works. Um, and Helene, I see you're raising your hand. Again, if you have a question, let me see what that says. It doesn't say. If you have questions, it's best to put them in the Q&A. You should have a Q&A button you can press and type stuff in, because I usually answer those, in the at the end. I go through every one of them. I just can't keep up with the chats. It just doesn't work for me. Okay. So, and I've helped a lot of people who couldn't get Spooky working. They just couldn't. It didn't work for them. And so I spend a lot of time with that and helping people. I mean, I've gone everywhere from, okay, open the box and let's get it all hooked up, to I'm having my favorites is I've got generator errors, which I did a presentation on last month, or whatever. So I help with all that sort of stuff, specifically on Facebook. That's main stuff, or via email. This. Okay, part 2. So let's talk about the biofeedback scan cell. So there's 3 methods of doing Spooky 2 biofeedback. The first one is GX biofeedback. That's what we're doing today. And keep in mind, and I didn't have this anywhere in here, the GX biofeedback scans only detect pathogens. You can't detect, oh, I have my kidneys aren't working, unless it's caused by a pathogen. Maybe it's caused by years of taking the wrong drugs or whatever. It will not do that. At least that's my view. Some people believe it can. Most people believe, nope, it's aimed at detecting pathogens. That means bacteria, a virus, or a whatever those things are. I can never think of the path. No. Anyway, so it only detects pathogens. There's also, if you have an XM generator, you can use the Spooky Pulse. We're not going to cover that tonight, but that's another way to do that. The Spooky Pulse is another device that you can use with the XM, so where you can do biofeedbacks that way. And then the scaler has a way to do biofeedbacks as well. It requires a generator X, and it uses both generators of the GX to do it. And it has an entirely different philosophy of how it does it, which I won't go into because that's outside the scope of this. But those are the 3 methods that Spooky 2 has to do biofeedback. Part 3, we're moving along good. All right. We're going to cover the first part is the general scan overview, all the basics. This is the meat of biofeedback for Spooky 2. Everything else sort of builds on that. If you can do a basic GX general scan, the rest of it becomes pretty easy. And so we're going to spend a lot of time doing this. So the first thing is it uses only one generator of the GX. The GX has 2 generators in it. It's only going to use 1. You can use either generator, it doesn't matter. The recommendation is you should not use the Spooky Boost while you're doing this. I know people that do, they think it works better that way. It's up to you, but the general view is you should not use the Spooky Boost. Baseline, I don't use Baseline. Most of the people I know don't use Baseline. It was an interesting idea, and I was a Spooky 2 user when Baseline came out. And I understand the intent of it. The intent of it was to try to filter out noise and all that. But I don't think that really works, and I don't bother with it. And I'm happy with my biofeedbacks, and so are the other people I'm aware of who've been around longer than I am. We're going to talk about setting up the hardware. We're going to run some scans. We're going to use the scans, and we're going to talk briefly about reverse lookup. That's all in just the GX part, in part 3. So we have a lot of things to cover here. I'll try to go a little slower because I tend to fly. And I got a lot of slides here, which is really unusual for me. But I like more stuff in the slides. I mean, I don't want to have, here's a bullet, and then I talk for 20 minutes on how to do everything in the bullet. And that's okay, but I like to see things on the screen as well. And I'm developing, as part of this, I hope, a checklist for these things to help you remember all the things you need to do. But it's all in the presentation as well. Okay, so when you're going to do a general scan, the first thing you do is going to hook up the TENS pads. You're going to select the biofeedback preset. You're going to run it. You're going to save the results, and you're going to use them. And we're going to do all that stuff in the demo. So this is a picture of your GX generator. It doesn't matter whether it's a GX or GX Pro, all right? And generally what I would recommend is you use G1, the out one. That's where you're going to connect your tens cable and your and therefore your tens pads on there. That's where this is going to do. And again, if you're not going to use the boost, which is you shouldn't, you're going to remove the boost from there, and you're going to hook up the tens cable to that out one port, and then you're going to hook up the tens pads to that cable, to the one pad on black and one pad on red, and then you're going to stick them to your skin where you want to scan. Now those pads should be at least 3 inches apart because it's going to scan between them. That's the whole idea. And so, whatever area you decide to scan, you can do a full body scan. And with a GX, the recommendation is the full body scan. You go about 3 inches on either side of your belly button, 3 to 4 inches, and that will do a full body scan. I have mixed feelings about that, but that's the recommendation at the moment. It used to be you do right wrist, left ankle, which is what you do with if you're doing the spooky pulse. But the problem is when you're doing the XM, it likes to have the pads pretty close together to be as accurate as possible. And most of the time, you're trying to scan an area. So, I remember a few years ago, I got a skin infection in my left leg, and so I was using it on the left leg, on either side of the big skin infection that went halfway down my shin, and that's the way I was doing my scans. Okay, so if you want to do a general scan, you would select the preset. So over here on the left side of the screen, oops, one, my cursor. You're going to go to presets. You're going to click on biofeedback. You're going to do a generator X scan, and that's the generator X contact scan. And you're going to do not the fast. Click on the fast. You're going to do a general one. The fast, and we'll talk about what that is in a second. Maybe we'll talk about it now. What's the difference between the general and the fast? The general takes about 19 minutes. The fast runs in about half that time. The way it does that is it's not as it's not as accurate. Because it skips more frequencies. I mean, you're not going to scan every frequency between 48,000 and 1.8 meg. You scan and you increment by a little bit. Well, the increment in the fast biofeedback scan does it twice as much, and so it's not quite as fine as what I'm trying to find. So I tend to do the general biofeedback scan. Your mileage may vary. You may be happy with whatever. Once you've selected that, you can click on Overwrite Generator in the Settings tab. Settings. I was really asleep when I did this. This is the Control tab. I'll fix this in the presentation before I send it up. I'm going to do it on Generator 3, and then I'm going to hit Scan, and that's all you need to do. So what it amounts to in the general scan, this is the biofeedback scan, and I'm going to show you this in a demo in a minute. It runs about 18 minutes and 54 seconds. And when it's running, this is incrementing. It doesn't bother with estimated total runtime. It just shows how much time has gone by, and it has the frequencies in here. That's what it's going to do. It's going to run about 19 minutes. And like I said, this is the general. So what happens is it starts at 41,000 hertz, and it's going to increment by 0.025% every second or two, or whatever that is. It'll increment the frequency up to that until it gets to 1.8 megahertz. When you do the fast biofeedback scan, it's now incrementing by 0.05%. So it doesn't hit as many frequencies, and that's how it runs faster. So once the scan gets done, you're going to get this nifty screen here, and it's going to give you a list of 10 frequencies. The 10 frequencies are the most active frequencies it found. Keep in mind, it's scanning at that 41,000 to 1.8 megahertz is essentially where most pathogens live. So it's right there. So, and you're going to save that. That's this little button here. And that's going to bring up this screen. And you can name it whatever you want. I recommend you add stuff to this or insert stuff. So it starts with a BFB. Don't have to, but you'll be happier if it does. And the dwell time, which is important, is 180 seconds. That means for every frequency of these, it's going to run it for 3 minutes each. That's what the dwell is. A lot of the users have gone through and done have done some stuff with stickers, and part of the Stephanie Ah method is you change this to like 10 or 1 or whatever it is, or 5. And when you do that, it saves it as the new default. So I always say, make sure when you're going through this and saving it, you double check and make sure that the dwell is set to 180. And then you can put in any comments you want in here. I almost never put anything there, but if you want to, you can put it in there. So click on the save button in the 10 frequency scan, edit the name, make sure the dwell is set to 180, enter any comments, and click save. That's a save right here. And that's going to save it to the BFB database, which we're going to see in that. Now, once I saved it, what do I do with it? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to go to presets and you're going to get a shell empty preset. That's what shells are for. That's where I want a shell and I want to add frequencies to it. That's the whole purpose. And I'm going to add it in remote in this case, and I'm going to choose a killing shell preset. You're doing killing because it detects pathogens. You know, this isn't I want to improve my kidneys. That would be healing. Anything that is a pathogen, you want to do is killing. And the generic stuff to start with that I always recommend is killing RJW. If you're doing healing, I tend to use healing RJW. And all these other things become an advanced thing. And I think there's an advanced thing coming up in a few more weeks that'd be worthwhile to talk about how to choose the best preset. But that's beyond, I'm doing basic stuff here. So we picked a killing shell preset, and then we go on, and I went to the programs tab, and I did a search on BFB. And I found all the BFBs in it. This is the one I'm going to do. I double click on that, and that'll add it it adds it to the list down here below the programs. And then from there, we can go off to the control tab and click overwrite generator, click on which generator we want, and hit start. Now, obviously, this is remote, so you've set up this generator, whatever you're going to do the killing on, with a remote, with a boost and a remote, so you can run this. Okay, we'll get that back to it. We'll get back to that in a second. So that's where that stuff is. All right, and like I said, I'm going to go through this stuff in a minute, but I want to go through the basics of here. So a lot of people, what they like to do is they like to do a reverse lookup. Now, this is an interesting thing for me. Number one, I almost never do reverse lookup. Why? Because it's not a diagnostic tool. People think it is, but it is not. It will not diagnose anything. All reverse lookup does is it says, oh, you have 10 frequencies. I'm going to take the first frequency, and I'm going to look at all the programs in the program database and look for programs that have a frequency that's exactly that or close to that. Well, the thing is that pathogens change all the time and whatever, and so it may not find any at all because it's not a diagnostics tool. And I'm going to show you an example of how you can improve getting the results, but still not a diagnosis tool. And I'll show you why in a second. So that's what it does. So it can't diagnose you. What it can say is, oh, here is this list of 10 frequencies. Here is a list of programs that do things around that frequency. Hang on one second. No. All right. So that's what this does. Now, so what do I use it for? Okay. The one thing I use reverse lookup for is if I have a diagnosed issue, I look for stuff in reverse lookup for that issue, and I use them in treatments. So if I have some sort of a blood infection sort of thing, and I do a scan, and it returns a bunch of stuff, and I can use whatever to get them, I'll look for things that have a blood infection sort of thing. That's what I'm going to look for. And I may or may not use those programs, but that's what I'll do. And I'll show you why that is right now, I think. So this is something I did. And so I said, gee, I did this and I found these 10 frequencies. And so I said, I want to do a reverse lookup. This is before I save it. And I typed in go. All right. And the other place you can do this, once you load a preset into a generator, you can actually do a reverse lookup there. That's on the right side. I'll show you that in a minute. So when I didn't use harmonics, this is what I got. I got a few things, which was really interesting. Apparently, I have eating disorders, but although my eating disorders is I eat too much food. And so I need to lose that weight. I definitely don't have any of this. I wouldn't be this overweight if I did. So what I'm going to show you is in this that I'm going to look at the database matches simply for the first one it found. That's what we're going to look at. And it didn't find any. This is what the report looks like. It didn't find any. And I see stuff on Facebook all the time. I ran a reverse lookup and it didn't find anything. What did I do wrong? Well, you didn't do anything wrong. This is what you normally get, frankly. And there's lots of times I get 0 matches if I'm going to run it. Sometimes I run it just to see what I get, but I didn't in this case. I was just playing with it. However, what you can do, finally got that, when you do the reverse lookup, you can say include harmonics, include subharmonics. What that is, what a harmonic is, if you have a frequency of 1,000, a harmonic is double that. It's 2,000, or it's 4,000 because double that, or it's 8,000, which is double that, or it's 16,000. I think it goes up 4 or 5 is what the harmonics are. So that's what a harmonic of a given frequency. And so in this particular case, this 515, it would be 10, be 1030 and then 2060 and something. Subharmonics are just the opposite. So if I have a frequency of 10,000, a subharmonic would be half 5,000, and half of that 2,500, and half of that 1,250. So that's what those things are. And the reason that consider that is that the Rife machine and the way Rife works, you can do a frequency of a harmonic or subharmonic, and it affects that one. So if you had a frequency of 10,000, there might be something at 40,000 that's a harmonic, and so running a frequency of 10,000 can affect whatever that was at 40,000. I hope that makes sense. One of the downsides of doing these one-way seminars is it's like, oh, what are you talking about? And when you have 287 people that are on here, trying to do Q&A in real time doesn't work too well. So make sure you use the Q&A button if you have questions about this stuff. And I'm sorry I can't handle that stuff in real time. Anyway, so that's what include harmonics and subharmonics. So if we go back to this, what I said was, nope, I'm not doing any harmonics here, and it didn't find anything database for that particular frequency. But if I said yes, I get programs out the wazoo, is the best way to put it. I have all kinds of stuff in here for the same frequency. So do I have adenoid problems? Do I have abscesses? I mean, there's a ton of stuff in here. This is page 2 of the same thing, and it goes on. Notice these are all A's at this point. This is going to go on for a long time because there's a lot of things that are subharmonics or harmonics of that frequency. And you can see in this list here, Adrenoglads uses 1550, which is apparently a subharmonic. AIDS 2 and 3 use it, and AIDS Bio uses it, and so on and so forth. So my point is, there's a lot of programs that use the same frequencies, and so that's the reason I don't find reverse lookup. It's not a good diagnostic tool at all because of that. Because everything is it's a lot of common frequency. And I have even another. See, we got into B. This is on the 3rd page, and we're still on the 1 frequency. So I like it, like I said, and I use it for if I have this wrong with me, I'll use reverse lookup and see what it can find in there. Plus, I'm using the normal searches in the programs tab for whatever my problem is. And so I may use programs that it finds and add them to what I'm doing for treatments. I hope that makes sense. Okay, the quick overview of the general feedback is to set up the hardware. You're going to remove the boost. You're going to attach a TENS cable to out one. You're going to plug the TENS cable into the pads, and you're going to stick the pads on your body so that the area to scan is between them. Pads should be at least 3 inches apart. They can be a little more than that, but like I said, if you want them closer together, as not too close, but if the larger the area, the greater the chance of picking up other things. So next, once you set up your hardware, you're going to run and save the scan. You're going to load the GX General Biofeedback Scan from the Presets tab. You're going to go to the Control tab and click on Overwrite Generator, and then the generator using. Then you're going to click on Scan, and when the scan's done, you're going to list of 10 frequencies, and you're going to save them using the Save button. And finally, using the scan is pretty straightforward. You're going to connect the treatments device to the generator you're going to use. you're going to go to the preset tab. You're going to load a killing shell preset. The programs tab, you're going to use a search to locate the program that you saved for that 10 frequencies. You're going to double click on that program. I'm going to do all this in the demo in a minute. And the control tab, you're going to click on the override generator and then on the generator using, and you're going to click start. It looks like a lot of steps. That's because I like to go into a lot of detail, but it's really straightforward to do this. The general GXScan is fairly straightforward. You know, there's one of the nice things about it is it only takes about 19 minutes. You don't have to be perfectly still. You can sit there watching TV or sit in a chair or whatever you're going to do. And you know, it works really well for that. It's pretty straightforward. Now we get to the demo. So that is in my test system here. So this is a test system. I actually don't have anything hooked up to it, but let's go through the steps. So here we are in the presets tab. We're going to go into biofeedback. Then we're going to go into generator X, and they're going to run the general biofeedback scan. And notice I'm not using the baseline because I don't. And we'll talk about some of the other highlights in a minute, because I'm going to cover grade scan. I'm going to cover hunt and kill. The rest of it is less used, but trust me, these will be the ones you're going to use anyway. So we've loaded the general feedback scan. We can see that up here. We've loaded it there. So it's now in memory. Now we need to put it in a generator. That's in the control tab. So what's happened is in generator 3, I've already set up my I've set it up. I've connected everything to that because it's going to be tens pads. I'm going to overwrite the generator, click on that, and it's going to load the general biofeedback scan. And then we're going to do a scan. And I'm going to get this message because I'm in test mode. You won't get that message. So it's ramping up here to get ready. And so there's a couple things I'm going to do. And let me go back to stop, because I don't want to spend 19 minutes waiting for this thing to finish. So we're going to click on step size and 1,000. So if I was actually doing it, it would really be inaccurate. And I'm going to change the min-res delay to 0.1. These are things that I don't recommend you play with unless you know what the heck you're doing. I never change these, by the way, except in a demo mode, because I don't think it's a good idea. I don't know enough. That's what it boils down to. There's a debate on changing the mid-range read delay to something less than 0.07 because it makes it run so much faster. Well, faster isn't always the best thing to do, but I can't tell you if it runs in 7 minutes versus 19 minutes, is it really any more accurate? I can't tell you. I don't know. And to be honest, it's an experimental device. Nobody can tell you that. Okay. You know, we're not. I'm not a big drug company with a whole bunch of money for research and development to put out studies that are inaccurate anyway. The whose purpose is to sell my stuff. So yeah, that's my view of that. And so you do what works for you. And then we're going to do a scan with this because I've changed these values. So we're going to do a scan. Yes, it's still in this. And it takes a few seconds before it actually starts doing it, which over here in the frequency, it's going to start off at 41,000. And it's going to run through this in about 50 seconds. Okay. But I wanted to go through that. So by the way, while you're doing a biofeedback scan, you get this nifty thing here. Red means the detection, it's above the running average. Green means below the running average. And that's sort of how it figures out what it needs to record. So this won't take very long. And there it is. So there's the 10 frequencies it found on my test system. And this is in test mode. It's just making stuff up. Okay, that's what it's doing at the moment. But for what we're doing, that's all I wanted to do. So we have this. And I said, okay, so we have this list of 10 frequency. Now I want to save it. That's over here. So then I'm going to click on that. It goes into the create program. And I'm going to give this BFB test. I'm going to rename it test 21 or whatever we call it. And I always leave the BFB in there. I always leave the time, date, and second in there. It's the date and time, including the seconds. I always leave them in there so I can find them later. These are the frequencies it's going to save because it found the dwell is 180 seconds. Like I said, that looks good. And then I got to move this other way so I can hit save. Do we want to save next up? And the answer to that is yes. So we have now saved that test run. So it's nice and saved. All right. So one of the other things I'll mention, which is not in the presentation, a lot of the practitioners, when they do the scan, they actually like to do an angle plus current. I've seen several of the practitioners say that they feel it's more accurate. If that's what you want to do, you can. I'm not going to go into what those actually mean. Essentially, though, the GX is different than the pulse. The way that GX works is it runs a frequency like 41,000 out there, and while it's running the frequency, it detects how you're responding to that frequency. Because the intent is when we hit a frequency that a pathogen is there, it responds, and so it responds by the GX detects that response and measures the response level, and then what happens is the 10 frequencies it gives you are the 10 most responsive frequencies. That's literally how this stuff works. And so the angle plus current, you can use that if that's what you want to do. Right now, I'm just doing defaults. When I remember, because I don't a lot, I use the angle plus current. I haven't noticed a big deal, but I know that some of the other practitioners, like Nick Dewey and Brad Johnson, have both said, "Oh, you really should use angle and current." Okay, so if you remember, change it. I wish we could change the default, but we can't. Now, so we've created this. How do we use it? Well, like I said, we go into presets and back to home, and we're going to say shell empty presets. And I'm going to set this up as a remote, and I'm going to do a killing RJW, which is down here. That's the one I always recommend you start with. You'll find out more about these other things. A few people like the universal square bomb, but for right now, we're going to use the killing, that one, and we're going to go to the programs tab, and we're going to search. Turn this on. Oh, that's going to take a while. When it finally comes back, we're going to do a search for BFB and search. And one of the things that happens when you do a biofeedback and you save it, it always goes to the bottom of the list, always, because that's the way it saves it in the database. And this is the one I just did. So that's the one I just did. I will double click on that. So I've now got a killing preset, shell preset. I've added a program to it. I'm going to go to the control tab. I'm going to overwrite the generator, and I'm going to use a different generator because I'm using 3 for my biofeedback. And I hit start. And that's it. It's that simple. And this will run, because it's a remote, it's going to run forever. Obviously, and I didn't cover that, the remotes are, do I have them here? So remotes are these little nifty guys here, and you attach them to a boost. So it is that simple. It's not, it looks like a lot of steps, but it isn't. I mean, yes, it's 12 steps. Is it really that much? Maybe it's 14 steps. No, it's not. And once you've done it once or twice or 3 times, it'll be, oh, do this, do this, do this. The problem you'll have is you'll forget to do steps. But if you go through this one at a time, you'll see it's really straightforward. And yes, all the stuff is really busy for new people, but what I just did is what you need to do. So let me go back to the presentation so I can figure out where we are. Oh, so suppose I wanted to do a reverse lookup on this, and I've loaded it, and I could have done it back on the program stuff. And again, so let's do a go, and it's going to go through every frequency here and look for them. And now it's on the second frequency. It's a good thing I'm doing on this computer, is because my production computers are a lot slower than this computer. This computer is really fast. So that's one of the things, one of the few things that's different. If you buy a cheap computer, I'll just talk while this doing it. If you buy a cheap computer that is pretty slow, then most of the time it doesn't make a difference. The 2 times it does make a difference is how long it takes Spooky 2 to load. On this computer can load from, when I double click on it, in about 45 seconds. In my slowest computer, it can take a couple minutes. And the other thing is here in reverse lookup, which I rarely run, this reverse lookup can take a long time. As you can see, I actually found some stuff. And again, this is just making stuff up. This is actually finding stuff in my biofeedback database. You can turn that off, meaning it found these before. And that's probably all there is. So, but that's how you do with the reverse lookup if you want to. Again, I wouldn't do that personally. I just don't. Most of the time, I don't find it as being useful. Okay. All right, so here we are. So let's go back. So we've gone through all the scans and all that for a general scan. And I recommend you start with the general scan and you get this down pat before you move on to hunt and kill and all that, because you have to do all the stuff anyway. So that's the reason I went, and that's the reason we did part 3. And that's the reason we spent so much time on part 3. Let's move on. Part 4, hunt and kill biofeedback scan. All right, so let me look at something real quick. Okay. Yeah. I'm just making sure I didn't have any problems. All right, so hunt and kill. Hunt and kill is a very popular thing to do, and I like it a lot. But there's good and bad to it. It's mostly good. It's a little more inconvenient. So we're going to talk about that right. Hunt and kill. What's the difference? The big difference is with hunt and kill, it does a scan followed by a kill. Okay, and basic hunt and kill, it uses the tens pads. So I stuck the tens pads wherever I wanted to scan, and when it gets done with the 19 minutes, it's going to automatically build a killing program to do those 10 frequencies, and it'll take 30 minutes to go through that. So we just had 18 minutes or 19 minutes and 30 minutes. So we're now at 49 minutes. And then what happens when it gets done with the killing? Then it goes back and does another hunt. But the smart thing is, what's nice about it, is it only scans around the 10 frequencies. It doesn't scan everywhere from 41,000 to 1.8 megahertz. It doesn't bother with that. It scans just those 10 frequencies and around them, because the pathogens can, once you hit them, they can say, I don't feel comfortable here. I'm going to move just a little bit their frequency. And so the intent is to find them and kill them. The good part is that only takes a couple minutes. So it doesn't take the full 19 minutes again. It takes 2 or 3 minutes. It builds a new list of 10 that are around those 10, and it runs a killing on that for 30 minutes. And it's going to do that. Well, it'll do that forever, literally. It'll do that until it can't find any frequencies in there, which I've never seen, or it until you stop it. That's what it does. Now, the downside of that is this is contact mode. And so, and I've done this, by the way, I've done that in contact mode where I wanted to run on hunt and kill. And so at night, but the trick for that is I had to use some tape or something because I roll around too much, and the connections to the tens pads will come off at night or whatever. But it's other than that, so it's really simple to do. And there's more complex than we're going to get into, I promise. So again, the hookup is it's the same as what we did. That's why we cover that first. It's the same thing as the general scan. You use this directly to the out one port. You hook the tens pads to you, but this time you're going to run a GX hunt and kill. You're going to overwrite the click scan. However, there's a couple things. It does not save the scan. You will not find this scan in the programs tab. It doesn't do that. It doesn't create new ones every time. It just runs it. Okay. And running the scan is part of the scan preset. So I want to show you a demo of that. I hope that makes sense to you guys. And it's right here. So here we are. So let's go do that. So we're going to go to presets. Now, we've assumed, well, I'll do that in a second. Presets, we're back to home. We're going to do a biofeedback. We're going to do generator X. And we're going to do a hunt and kill. And it's always good to read the notes on these things. So, and it covers a lot of the stuff that I've talked about, but I've given you more detail. So this is a hunt and kill. So we've loaded that. You can see it's up here. We have that in there. We go to the control tab. We've set up generator 3 to be where everything's hooked up to out 1, and we have the pad stuck on us, just like where we go to generator 3. See, it's going to do a hunt and kill, and we do a scan. And yes, it's still in test mode. That's not a problem. And so what I want to do is, sorry, I want to stop that. I'll come back to you in a second. I'm going to change this again because I want it to finish in my lifetime. Back to 1. All right, so now we're going to do a scan. One of the things I want you to notice is when you do a scan, it pauses your other generators. And that's to minimize interference and all that. So whatever you're doing on the other generator, when you're doing the scan, it pauses them. That's the way it works. You can say not to do that, but I wouldn't recommend it. Again, I'm a default sort of person because I know and understand computers, but I don't know how they came up with sine waves and whatever for this, or how they came up with a step size of 0.025%. I assume that John White knows a lot more than I do, and unless I find something that doesn't work for me. Okay, so now it found the 10, and it's still on generator 3. It is now running those frequencies. I'm going to cheat again. This is age factor. That means it's going to run 100 times faster. So it's going to go through these frequencies pretty fast. Again, this is just for presentation purposes. It's going to go through all these frequencies, and it's going to do it pretty quickly. And when it gets done, it should go back. Yep. And now it's doing another scan. It's doing a scan just around these frequencies. That's what it's doing. So this is not going to take very long to do. It's going to run through the frequencies, and it'll have an updated list of 10 frequencies pretty soon. Let's see, in about 30 seconds or whatever. Anyway, it's going to have, it popped in. So now it built a new list of frequencies, the 10 frequencies around those other ones we did. It's going to run through those again. And so it's running right now. When it gets done with the normal 30 minutes, it'll go back and do a new scan. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Again, this is the simple version. Yeah. This is the simple version of hunt and kill. You have one generator, you're using the contact pads on you, the TENS pads, and it scans that area. It builds a list of 10 frequencies. It runs those for 30 minutes, then it scans around those. Hopefully that makes sense to you, because that's the best I can explain. So but again, it doesn't save the scan, so you're not going to find that anywhere anymore, but it runs it. So this is a set and forget, again, but it's all contact mode, so you got to keep it on you the whole time. That's the way that works. All right, now, what if I want to use hunt and kill for other treatment options? An interesting idea. So what would you want to do? Well, one of the ways I've done this is I tend to do hunt and kill where I'll use the pads on me for that, but I'm going to be sitting there for a while, so maybe I want to run the treatment on my plasma and let it do a hunt and kill, which is, again, it does a scan for 18 minutes or 19 minutes, then it would run 30 minutes on the plasma, then it goes back and does a quick 2 or 3 minute scan and back on the plasma, and so on and so forth. That takes 2 generators. All right, that's important. And you have to be careful of the treatment generator. We're going to show you that in a second. So again, the scanning generator is the same thing. You're going to select the preset, load it, and run it on the generator, or the run on generator. So what that means is, here in the presets, the first thing we have to do is we need to set up the treatment generator, okay? And because it's not doing it with contact mode anymore. You're choosing how it's going to treat you. And it's not going to be on the scanning generator. The scanning generator is contact mode with the pads on it. So suppose I want to use the plasma, which is what I did here. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up the treating generator. So I went into presets, I chose a shell, I chose plasma. I'm going to use plasma advanced. That's what I decided to use. And then I'm going to go forward. Oops, that was brilliant. I'm going to fix that. All right, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to load that on the generator, which is here. I'm going to put that on generator 5 is what I said. So there it is. I haven't loaded anything to it. It's not in there. I don't use the programs at all at this point because it's an empty shell and the scan's going to fill that in. So then once we've set up the treatment generator, now we go back and we've got to do the hunt and kill. So we do back to presets, we find GX hunt and kill, and we're going to put that on generator 3. Once we load generator 3, before we do a scan, we've got to go down here at the bottom. It says after scan, run on generator 5. So that's really important. Now you got to run it. You have to choose the generator that you put your preset on. So we're going to run, that was the treatment generator, it was 5. And we're going to, but we're going to load the scanning generator on 3, but we want to run it on 5. So that's it. And then you just hit scan and it does everything. And I think I'll demo that in a second. Yes, I will demo that. So again, here's the steps. Not that difficult. You're going to take the same thing as before. Take off the boost, hook up the TENS cable, plug the TENS cable in the pads, stick the pads to your body. That sounds familiar. We've done that already. Then set up the treatment. That's different. In the presets tab, we're going to load a treatment shell and then we're going to put it on a generator, the treatment generator, not the scanning generator. And then we're going to run the scan. For that, we're going to load the hunt and kill. We're going to put it in the control tab and overwrite the generator. But before we start it, we have to change the run on generator number to be whatever we're doing. And then we hit scan. But again, this is hunt and kill. No frequencies are saved in the BFB database when doing hunt and kill. So I think the next one is, yeah, the demo. Lucky us. All right. So let's go into that. So again, what we're going to do, we go to home. We're going to do a shell. And we're going to say, we're going to do this as a plasmid. And I'm going to use the advanced. And then we're going to go to the control tab. We're going to overwrite the generator and click on this. And so that's what we loaded in generator 5. Now we're going to go back to presets, home, biofeedback. This is generator X, and we're going to do hunt and kill. And then we're going to load that into generator 3. However, we've done that. I have to say down here, it says after scan, run on generator 5. So I'm going to run this on generator 5. So I type in 5 and hit tab, because you got to do something, otherwise it doesn't remember it. Then all we have to do is a scan. Now let me go change this. Remember, I like to 1,000. Okay, and so we're doing that. And we're going to do a scan. It says it's going to take 2 minutes and 24 seconds. Scan. Yeah, we're in test. All right. So now it's doing the scan in a couple minutes. So we'll talk while it's doing that. So again, we're doing the scan. And when it gets done with the scan, it's not going to save it. It's going to run it immediately. And it's going to run on generator 5. So hopefully that won't take that long to set up and do. Okay. No, still, it's still. Did I change that? I did. Oh, I forgot to change the. Sorry. Now we'll do this again. I forgot to change the minimum read delay to 1. Sorry, and that's to make it run faster. Okay, one more time. So this will be 52 seconds. I could talk for that. So it's now running the scan from 41,000 to 1.8 million. And when it gets done with the scan, it's going to automatically run it on generator 5. So that's what I told it to do. And with the preset that I told it. Obviously, if you're doing before in all contact mode, it's running the killing preset from JW in contact mode. Should get done pretty soon. Yeah, we're almost done. So see, look, once generator 5, it's now running these. That's what it's doing, which is what we wanted it to do. So when it gets done with that, and we'll let it do that, what'll happen is it'll go back and it'll scan around these frequencies, just like it did before. Right now. So it's now scanning these frequencies, 1550, and so it's scanning around those frequencies. So it's going to do that. It'll build a new list that's going to run on the plasma, but I'm not going to bother with that at this point. We've seen it do that before. There's no difference. Now there's only one gotcha in here, and that's back in here. Remember, we went in here and in here, kind of shell, and we said plasma, and we said advanced. In the programs tab, down here, there's a repeat sequence and repeat chain. That says for this preset we've done, it's going to run once and it's going to stop, which is really important because it needs to stop so you can go back and do another scan. Let me show you what happens. There's a couple of these that doesn't do that. Suppose, let's go back here and we go back to shell. Let's do coil. I think I get that to coil, this one. If we do generator at coil and look at programs, see it's got a repeat chain of 0. So what'll happen if I don't change this, it'll do the scan and then it'll start treating on the coil. But it's going to run the coil forever. It'll never go back to the scan. So actually, when you're doing this hunt and kill with other than the contact mode generator, you need to make sure that the repeat chain and repeat sequence are both set to 1. And then we can go to control, override generator. We can put it in 5, which will be real interesting. And then again, we could go that, and then it'll work. So again, remember, you should, after you load the preset, you should double check and make sure that repeat chain and repeat sequence are set to 1. Otherwise, it'll do a scan once and it's just going to run on whatever generator forever, and it'll never go back and do a new scan, which is the hunt part of hunt and kill. Hopefully that made sense. Okay. All right. Grade scan. Grade scan is a really interesting type of scan. Its purpose in life, because it's not obvious, is it's a way for you to grade programs. If you go here, let me show you this. Actually, let me show you this again. We go into programs here and we do a search on cold. We got 152 hits. Okay. So how would I know which cold programs that I'd need to run? That's what grade scans for. So it helps you grade the programs. So let me go through what that means. All right, the hookup is the same as general scan. You're going to do contact modes and the whole 9 yards, just like we've done so far. No difference. And the presets tab, though, this time you're going to do a GX grade scan. And in the programs tab, we're going to add the programs you want to grade. We'll do that in a minute. And in the control tab, we're going to overwrite the generator and click on scan. And in the results, we're going to save the scan and we're going to use them just like we did before. So it's pretty straightforward, but grade scan, like I said, is really interesting. I've actually seen people use grade scan for cancer issues. When they have maybe you do in programs, you do a search for cancer of your type and you get a bunch of them. Well, which ones do I use? And the grade scan can help you do that. That's just an example. So again, presets, grade scan, programs, and you do a search in it. Notice I like cold. And then you figure out what to add in there. And once you add them in, you can go put them in the generator. But there's a couple things that we're talking about. The max hits defined. I'll show you that in a second. And but it's straightforward. You give it a list of, hey, I want you to return however many. And again, you'll see this in the demo. So let's do the demo. So we go into presets. We're going to home, biofeedback, generator X, grade scan. Programs, I'll say, we did a search for cold. Well, so let's add this in, maybe the allergic stuff. We'll add the bronchitis in. So double click on each one. We'll add all these suckers in. Did I get to one? Hold 1, hold 3, hold 4, hold 5, hold 6. And you can add a whole bunch of them in here. Notice if I was going to run this on a remote, so far we're up to 7 hours and 1 minute. That's a long time. So that's enough to get started here. So, I mean, I've got 7 hours and 10 minutes. That's too much. So I want to find out of these 19 programs I put in here, which would have the most effect on me. So I've added these in, and now we're going to go to the control tab. We're going to do an override generator. Again, we're going to put them in generator 3 because we've set him up for that. Again, I'm going to change the initial, I'm going to change the initial step size to 100. And then we do a scan. Now you have to be careful when you're doing this because see the start, you can do a start. Don't do that. You do a start. It's going to run contact mode for 7 hours and 10 minutes. The reason this is, before it was grayed out. The reason it's not grayed out is because there are frequencies in here now. That's the only basis of it. Make sure you do a scan. That's what we're going to do. Still in test mode. Now it's going to run through all these things, hopefully in a rapid mode. I have no idea what it's doing. And I forgot to do something. So one of the things that happens, let me do stop. So one of the things that happens when you do a grade scan says, see it says max hits defined. It's going to give you an entry for every frequency it did. And so it's going to do it for every frequency, and that's going to take a while. And so my recommendation, if you want 10 is fine. You might want to do 20. So it'd be the top 20 hits. You can change that whatever you want. And it's going to be too many. See if I change this to 0. Still going to take a long time. So anyway, so it's going to, and it also samples a whole lot. Let's change this. Again, this is all what it does. I wouldn't recommend changing any of this before I changed everything, it was only going to take 6 minutes to do, because even though you've got 7 hours worth of frequencies, that's if you do every one of them for 3 minutes. We're not doing them for 3 minutes. It does it for a couple seconds to judge it, and goes from there. So the change I would make if you're doing a grade scan is I change max hits defined to 20. That's the only thing I do. We'll do a scan. Yes, we go. And now it's going to go through all this. This is the startup thing. It warms up. Now it's running all the frequencies pretty quickly. And there it is. Those are the 20 that it found. They're the top 20 of the 100 or for many it was frequencies that were in all those programs. So it's a really great preset for figuring out which of these many cold programs or whatever programs would have the most effect on the pathogens in my body. So I'm going to save that because I believe in saving everything. We're going to call this this is grade 21. Okay, so we'll save that. Move this other way again. Save. And yes, we do. Now to use that, we're going to do the same thing we've done so far. We go to presets. We're going to do a home shell. And we're going to do, in this case, remote. And we want a killing RGIW, which is down here. Oops, that one. And then when we go to programs, again, this is going to be BFB because we did a biofeedback. And down at the bottom, because it's always at the bottom and you can't change that, grade 21. So now we know it's going to run for an hour because there's 20 frequencies in it, and they each run for 3 minutes apiece. And we'll take that and we're going to plop it on some generator somewhere and start it, and it's going to run there. So that's what's going to happen. So it's pretty straightforward. All right, so let's see where we are in our grand scheme of things here. Maybe turn this off. All right, so that was the demo for that. Now, what if you want to do a sample digitizer? Sample digitizer is, it's all the same thing we've already done. I mean, the difference is you're not going to use contact mode. You're going to use a sample digitizer. And you have to use a liquid sample between the plates. I'm going to show you that in a minute. And you're going to use a sample digitizer preset. And I mean, it's all the same. It's really, we've covered everything. The only difference at this point is you're using the sample digitizer. This is so you're still going to hook it up to out one. And this is the sample digitizer, which I happen to have here. So this is the sample digitizer. Let me stop share so you guys get a full screen. This is a sample digitizer, okay? It looks like a remote, but it has these contacts inside, and it has a different connector, so it can connect directly to the out one port. The remote won't do that. The remote has to hook into the BN port of the boost. This should be hooking directly into the out one port of the GX generator. Now, in that, you have these guys here. There's two sides of these. There's a black side, and there's a side with a black E. So what happens is you're going to put your sample, and we're talking, what we're talking for sample, we're talking urine, we're talking mucus, we're talking blood. Those are the wet samples you can do. Phlegm works really well, but keep in mind, when this thing scans, it scans the sample. It's not scanning your body. It's not like a remote. It's not like contact mode. So whatever you're trying to solve has to be in the sample. So if you have a blood infection, scanning blood's a great idea. If you have some sort of lung infection, it's not going to be in your blood. So there's no point in scanning blood. You know, when you do a blood test and say, oh, you have an infection, that's because they said they can look at your blood count and figure out that your body knows it has an infection. Sample digitizer doesn't do that. It scans the sample for whatever it is. I've seen posts where people say, well, I'm going to file a nail sample, and I'm going to put it in water and put it on there. It won't work unless it would detect a fungus in the nail, but it's not going to, it's not a remote. It doesn't have a connection through you like the remote does. It doesn't work that way. So anyway, you put the sample in the E, and within this E, and then you stick the other E on it, like so. So now you have two black sides, just like that. And it doesn't, there's no up and down. Those go into the sample digitizer, which is right here. And so what happens is these little guys here, they go on the front where there's little rubber things here. And the back, this goes on the back. There's some metal teeth back here. Show it. That's where it goes. So, and it can be a little tricky. So here's the trick I use. So I'll put it in here and I'll get all the way in. And then what I'll end up doing is I'll move it around until it snaps into place. Now, and it does. And when you do that, it doesn't fall off. When it's not snapped into place, I can easily pull it apart like that. So I get it in, and I never try, I just position it close, and then I sort of move it around. Let me do that again, but so you can see it. So I put it in, and I sort of move it around somewhere until it snaps into place, and I can feel it snap into place, and I can't pull it out. That's how I know it's done. So you'll hook that into out one on the generator. Let's go back to share. Great. Okay, so I mean, that's how you do it. So that's the trick of it, and it needs to be done because it has to make a good connection. All right, so now back to this. So we demoed that. So how are we going to run this? Well, it's just like we did before. It really is. Let's stop this time. So we go into presets, into home. We're going to go to biofeedback. This time we're using sample digitizer. Sample digitizer, and we're going to do a general feedback skin. But let me tell you a couple things. A lot of people, and I'm one of them, I prefer to do the fine resolution biofeedback scan. The reason is I don't have anything hooked up to me, and I want it to be as accurate as possible. Let's do the general, though, and we're going to take that and we're going to put it into a generator. This is the generator we've been using for our biofeedback, and we'll still use it, so we'll assume that's where the sample digitizer is hooked up. This is going to run for 38 minutes, okay? It's already more detailed than if I did a contact model. But again, remember, the sample has to contain the pathogen. So if I have a leg infection, there is nothing I can do unless I'm going to find some pus or something from the leg infection. I can't do it with the sample digitizer. If it's all inside, there's nothing I can do except contact mode. So, and by the way, contact mode works exceptionally well for sinus and lung stuff because you can do phlegm, mucus, and all that sort of stuff. It works great for that. It works really well if you do have some sort of blood infection or that sort of stuff because it's in it. It works outstandingly well on if you have a UTI because you're going to put the urine in there and the urine contains that stuff. On the other hand, if you have some sort of lung infection and you use urine, you're not going to find too many lung pathogens in there from the lung infection. So be aware of that. I really like the sample digitizer, but you have to use the right stuff in it. So here we are. We're going to load this. And again, you just run it. That's all you have to do. And again, do the same thing. It's going to give you 10 hits. It's not a problem. But what I like to do, we'll go back to my preset. I prefer the fine resolution scan because it's not hooked up to me anyway. But put that in the generator. It's going to run almost 4 hours. But it does a lot more checks and whatever of the frequencies. And so, and it knows this 0.125. It's a finer frequency as well. So yes, it takes a long time, but does that really matter to you? Well, the only way it matters, let's do a scan. Is while it's running, it's going to pause your other generators. So you have to consider that, if you have some serious thing that you're using the other generators for, you may not want to pause them for 4 hours. In that case, go back and do the standard one, which is 37 minutes. Although if, for instance, I've done presentations, I had one in September on Cancer DB as for beginners. If you're doing that, you're probably not going to be running the sample digitizer. The biofeedbacks on that will be contact mode. Anyway, so again, I like the fine resolution, and that works really well. And the setup was identical. There's no difference. That's the reason they went through that stuff first. Okay, so what about the hunt and kill? That's a little different, not much. It's very similar to the hunt and kill of the others, but this is really common for people to do. Why? Well, because Now, it's the same thing. You're going to hook up the sample digitizer, liquid sample. You're going to, but again, you got to do a killing preset and you're going to do the treatment generator and you do the other stuff. Let's demo that. So let's go into presets. I need to do a killing preset. We're going to do this. So this is shell, empty. This time we're going to do remote. And this works the same way as I said. If we go to programs, remotes, wait a minute. I didn't select it yet. See, I get ahead of myself. Killing RJW. Okay, so I've loaded that in there. We go to programs and notice repeat chain is 0. It must be 1 or it doesn't hunt. It does a single scan and then it runs forever. We want it to run once and then and then go back again. So we went to presets, we loaded the killing, we went to programs, we changed this to 1. And we should do this whatever, no matter what shell we did, make sure these are set to 1. Then we're going to go to control. We're going to put this on generator 4. So it's now on generator 4. Great. Now let's go back into our sample digitizer file, the sample file. Biofeedback, sample digitizer, and this time I'm going to do the fine resolution because, oops, I want the hunt and kill. And the hunt and kill actually does the fine resolution, and I'll show you that in a second if we go to, we go here and we go override generator 3. And notice it's going to take 3 hours. It's not quite as fine resolution, but it takes a lot longer to try to be as accurate as possible. Now, is that a problem? Well, the first one's going to run for 3 hours, but after that, it's going to take the 10, whatever. It's just going to scan around those so maybe 3 minutes to do another scan, and then it kicks off again. So in this case, we've got this, but there's another change. Again, like we did, we have to run this on generator 4. So we have to change the run on generator. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do this so I can see it. We're going to go to 1. We're going to do actually, I'm really going to cheat. I only want this to 1 and 1. And we're going to change this to 100. I changed it to 1,000. So now it's going to run 50 seconds. Again, the only thing you're going to change when you do this is the run on generator. Okay, that's all you're going to do. So what happens is it's going to run this, and then it's going to run the hits on generator 4, and it's going to use the killing preset I put in there, which happens to be killing RJW. So it's remote. So now we're going to do a scan here. If you get that test mode message, you have a setup problem because it doesn't have a real generator. That's why I'm getting that. If you get those test modes, you have a problem. You need to review what's going on. So it's cooking along right now. And this only takes 50 seconds. So it's doing the scan right now to build the 10 on the sample and the sample digitizer. It got done. It found those frequencies. And now it's going to go do a killing on those on generator 4, which is where it's running at the moment. They change the age factor to make it 100 times faster. Again, don't do that. These things that I'm doing is because I'm doing test mode. I'm going to play with it. I want to see what it does. I want to present it and do it in a reasonable amount of time. So that's what it's doing. When it gets done with this, if we set it up right, it's going to go back and it's going to do another scan. But it's only scanning around these 10 frequencies. So it doesn't take very long to do that. It says about 30 seconds, if that. But it's going to be very quick to do this. Again, in real life, it's going to take about 3, maybe 4 minutes to scan around these frequencies to find it. It found, yep, it's tuned around those frequencies, and now it's going to run the killing on it. And it's going to do this forever. So a lot of people, and it's a really good one, if you have upper respiratory stuff or a UTA or whatever, you set this up. It takes 2 generators to do it. You set up your sample and sample digitizer, and you say, I'm going to run this on remote or whatever, and let it do its thing. And I would recommend changing the sample about every 24 hours, no matter what it is. To do that, all you're going to do is I'd stop them both. I'd reload. I'd start over with it with a new sample. That's what I would do, because things are going to change. So, but again, every 24 hours. It's not a big deal. It's very effective. My friends on Facebook, they swear by this, and I've used it as well, and it works very well. The best way to handle it. Stop all this. All right, let's go back and see where we are in the presentation. Okay, so again, we've gone through all this in the demo. You're going to set up the killing shell to begin with. You're going to go to programs and make sure that the repeat sequence and chain is 1. You're going to load that into a generator that you're, in this case, would be a remote. And then you're going to do the hunt and kill, the SD. But remember, once you load it into the generator, you have to go down and change the run on generator. I helped somebody on Facebook about an hour ago who was having problems hunt and kill because they hadn't done this. And so it's easy to forget, but you definitely need to do that. Okay, what's left? Oh, good, the wrap up, which is, geez, this is the longest I've ever taught. So we've talked about basic GX contact mode BFB. Get familiar with that. Everything is based on that. You can do that. The rest of the stuff is minor differences. We've talked about hunt and kill contact mode, sample digitizer, all that sort of stuff. We've talked about reverse lookup. Again, I'm not a fan of it. It has its place, but it is not a diagnostic tool. I get those questions on Facebook all the time. I did this and I couldn't find anything. Or I did this, and I cut rid of this, and I have uterine cancer, and I'm not a female. I mean, that sort of stuff. Um, I also have a YouTube channel that I have a bunch of videos on that I do for individual things because I have the things on how to use the sample digitizer and all that. I have a Telegram group that you can join for quick stuff on that. Again, there's my email. I have PDFs of all my presentations I've ever done and worksheets because I like worksheets. So you can get access to all that. And obviously Facebook Spooky 2 Right for Life, where I'm spending couple hours every day. And so are a bunch of other serious volunteers who have more experience than I do. And they can help you with whatever questions you have. And obviously customer support is really good as well. If you have a problem, and they can help you with, well, what should I run for this? They do some of that as well. Finally, there's some stuff in here. The user's guide is actually pretty good in Spooky software. Click on help, the pull down and click on user's guide and it'll open up. The quick start guide, which you should have gotten with your equipment, it's also in that video or in that folder. There are Vimeo is actually where all the Spooky 2 videos are have, but in reality, you should be using the Spooky 2 Academy events event list, and that's where all the weekly events, it shows the upcoming ones first, but it can show you all of it. It goes back a couple years. So it's good to be there. I've got to update this page. You can do some searches in there. It didn't used to work, it does now. Obviously, YouTube is there. The problem with YouTube is there's a lot of really old stuff there. If you're going to do YouTube, I wouldn't look at anything that was before 2023. When I got my scaler, the first thing I did is, oh, I want to sign out exactly how to look it up. I went to YouTube. I found a really nice scaler video done by John White. Well, it's John White. He should know what he's doing. So he shows this stuff, and the scaler didn't look like the one I had. And it's like, well, this isn't going to work. So I went and found another video. I mean, it's just the way it is. Okay. I hope you found this useful. I'm sorry it went so fast. We had a lot to cover. You can drop me an email if you have some ideas of things you'd like me to cover, whatever you want to do. And again, I'm doing Spooky for beginners. That's what I do. Next month, I don't know what I'm doing next month. In August. Oh, I'm doing an imprinting next month. Imprinting holographic stickers. And then in September, I'm doing a Cancer DB one. And I've got other videos on Cancer DB. If you have questions on that, send me an email and I can hook you up with that. All right, so that's everything. So now it's time to go into, I want to do Q&A. So we're going to go through the Q&A. Again, I apologize for not going through the chat, but I just can't keep track of it. So we did it this way, but I will go through everything you asked here. All right, so this is from Anonymous. I've done BFEs for 1 year. Usually look at reverse lookup only for frequency ID. Lately, reverse lookup doesn't show much except essential oils. My previous BFEs, before it was long list, no matter if it's with current or angle. How do I get a more comprehensive list for each frequency? Well, there's a lot of potential things for that. If you're getting less stuff, maybe you have less stuff to find. Obviously, you want to make sure you're using relatively fresh TENS pads. I'd make sure of that. One of the things I would do is when you do the reverse lookup, I would in the programs tab, I would turn off the SD database and I'd turn off the BFB database. because it uses that list as well, because there's no point in getting those. I mean, unless you want to see what the previous BFEs were. So I generally don't search those. I don't see any point of it. It should be working fine. There's no good way to test it other than what you're doing. And so those are the things I would try. There's, it's possible you could have a bad TENS cable. You could probably test that by running some of the low frequency programs and hook them to you and see if you can feel get zapped. Which you feel at frequencies really below 1,000. You can really feel those if you put it on the high power port. Make sure they could feel those. Again, you could test the TENS pads that way, but that's what I would do. And it may just be that you're a lot healthier than you used to be. It's the best I can offer. Okay, Jennifer. When I run ML, what's ML? I think in plasma, I edit my last scan. Oh, I know what it is. Morgellons in line. Because the fin grade scan is confusing. Do you recommend I figure out the NL grade scan? Do I need to download the utility? I don't use the utility for stuff. I'm using the basic stuff. Yes, there's a utility to help do things, and I don't use it. I use from all my scans, I use just the generic stuff. And when I did I've never done a Morgellons and Lyme presentation, and so I know roughly what it does. I'm not aware of you using grade scan in there, to be perfectly honest. I thought it was a system scan and a area scan, but I can't remember because I'm not familiar with that. My recommendation for you is there's a Morgellons and Lyme Facebook group. You should join that and ask those questions there, because that's what they work on all the time. Kirsten is the main person there, and Kirsten has Lyme, and she has cured herself with the spooky. Took 3 years, but she doesn't have problems anymore because Lyme is tough to do. So that's what I'd recommend for that. That's the best one I can do. Okay, Michelle. So always hit the harmonics button. Okay, so this is so always hit the harmonic buttons, if not when. If you want to do a grade scan, like I said, I'm not a fan of it. If you want to do it, I always do a grade scan. If I'm going to do grade scan, a reverse lookup. If you're going to do a reverse lookup, I don't play either one. I do a reverse lookup and see what I get, because that's the most precise. If you have 10,000, it's going to look for right around 10,000. That's all. It's not going to look at 20, 40, and 80. It's not going to look at 500 or at 5,000, 2,500. It's not going to look at those. It doesn't look at harmonics. If you didn't get anything and you still want information, what I would tend to do is I would do the harmonics first and then run it again and see what you get. And because actually harmonics is a little more precise for what you're going to get, because it tends to go that way rather than sub. If you still aren't happy with it, then you can do the subs at that point, and you're going to get a lot of hits of stuff that doesn't apply, but that's just the way it works. So I hope that answered your question. Nicola, hello, we have been diagnosed with brain tumor. I'm sorry to hear that. And we tried this, and it shows that it is, okay? The tumor is pressing on the nerve, so we can't move our hand. We've been using it for 30 days, and it has improved. Good, I'm glad to hear that. Now we can move our hand and the last finger is knead a little. The doctor said they should do an operation, but he guarantees us 50-50 up to that side they're paralyzed. Oh, that's a ringing endorsement. So what's your opinion on whether to continue using the operation? That's a difficult one. Again, I'm not a practitioner. I can tell you how to run things, and I can give you my personal opinion. My opinion, honestly, what I would do personally for me and my wife is, if Spooky's working, I'm not going to go under the knife. That's just my personal opinion. You can do whatever you think you need to do. I know that's what the practitioners say, because I've had those discussions with them. But that's up to you how you want to do that. The brain tumors are difficult, but if it's working, I put them off. And by the way, in my cancer presentation, they always, oh, you got to do this, got to do this. And one of the, if he's really giving you grief about it, what always shuts doctors up is, well, I have to pray about it, because they don't want to get into the mode of discussing religion. So if you need an excuse to put them off, if that's what you want to do, that's what I do. I hope that helps you. You really ought to consider posting something in the Spooky 2 stories one, if you're having luck with it, or if it goes, if it solves it completely. People need to hear that stuff. All right, so now I took care of that. All right, now we're going to go to Bruce. Bruce, I've been running detox at the same time as the killing from the scan. Is it worth running detox at the same time? Well, it depends on detox. Most of the people that run Spooky for a long time have a tendency to dedicate one of the remote generators to detox maintenance, and that's because when you're killing, it's creating detritus and other stuff getting put into your system, and so you need to keep your system clear from a detox point of view so it can get rid of all that stuff. So it's really common to run detox maintenance or on another generator. If you're talking about terrain, that's a whole nother matter. When terrain is what is recommended you run to begin with, you first run your Spooky, and that's that 11-day thing. And the recommendation there is don't run anything else while you're running the tank, while you're running terrain. And terrain runs for 11 days, and most people tend to run it quarterly or semi-annually just to do a full clean out once in a while. But again, if you're doing killing at the same time, the one I'd be doing would be detox maintenance. Another anonymous. I fully support Spooky 2 and want to clarify, why does Spooky Biofeedback identify stress-related frequency matches rather than pinpointing specific conditions like some other devices? Genius insight. I'd like to understand this better so I can explain it to other friends and family. Well, for the most part, I don't comment, well, because I don't know anything about the other things out there. What we're back to is we're back to reverse lookup. Again, my view of biofeedback is you're going to run it, it's going to give you 10 frequencies of pathogens, and you need to run those in a killing preset. That's what I think. And what those are and all that, you can debate them. There's no good way to answer those, to identify those, in my opinion. Again, my view of reverse lookup is if you know you have cancer, then you may want to do a reverse lookup and look for cancer stuff. So I don't see, stress related, again, any frequencies that comes up that are stress related, you're under stress because of a pathogen. Because my opinion and the opinion of most people I know is that GX biofeedback only detects pathogens. If you have a high stress job at work, it's not going to detect that kind of stress. That's what I think. So that's the best way I can put that. I just don't. The only way I would be discussing reverse lookup with anybody is I have cancer. I ran this. I found this, and it gave me 10 different programs that look like they're related to my cancer. The fact that I have an ingrown toenail or I have a toenail fungus and it gave me a program for that is not useful, and I wouldn't discuss that. That's the best I can answer for you, and I cannot give you any comments on any of the other products out there because I don't own them and I don't use them. So I hope that helps you. Again, for everybody out there, you can always send me an email or ask on Facebook, or if you can also do my Telegram channel, and you can also use Messenger to contact me as well because I answer those in email. Nancy, on Facebook, several experts say biofeedback and Generator X Pro is worthless. Can you comment on this? I will comment on that because I've seen those. You won't see that on Spooky 2 Right for Life. You won't. But there's several other Facebook groups that have people that have been using Spooky for a long time that have their own opinions on that. So here's what I tell you for that. Because when I started really getting into Facebook, I looked at some of the other groups. And some of the other groups are people that really don't like the direction that Spooky has gone. They don't agree with John White. They know a lot about rifing and that sort of stuff, and they talk about it from that point of view. And that doesn't mean I don't agree with them, but I listen to all that. And so I understand that, and I've seen those comments, and I understand why they're saying them. But having said that, I also know a lot of people who have used biofeedback, with the GX Pro, and it's works for them. And so I can't resolve the two. I don't know, I can't resolve that. My general belief is this is an experimental process. It's experimental, whatever. And so if, in my view, I believe it has value, which is why I did this presentation. I wouldn't have done it if I thought it didn't work. I really wouldn't have. And I understand that they don't think it works, and I understand the technical reasons why they don't think it works. But that doesn't change the fact that I think it works, and about a bunch of people that I respect, they think it works. So that's enough for me. You need to try it on your own to see if it's going to work. That's the best. That's true of anything spooky. That I tried this and it didn't work. Well, try something else with spooky. That's the way it works, because you have lots of options with spooky. Hopefully that answered your question. My advice is, I would do this and see if it works for you. And yes, it's fine that they have those lovely ideas, and maybe that's true for them or in their experience, but that doesn't mean that'll be your experience. Okay, Rhonda. Our cancer cells, they're pathogens. Cancer cells, because they're pathogens, yes, they're pathogens. Anything that's a virus or a bacteria or why do I have such a block to that? A parasite, is a pathogen. That's what it's going to find. So cancer itself, according to Royal Rife, is caused by I think it's a virus, the BX and BY. That's what he found. He could actually kill them. Yes, it is a pathogen. So that's what it boils down to. Anything that's a virus, a bacteria, or a whatever. So I have a block. I don't know why I can't remember. Those are living things that are close enough to living. That's what it's going to find. Okay, Julie, do you always change the age factor? I never change I never change. I changed the age factor so I could get done I could run the 30 minutes worth of stuff in 2 minutes or 1 minute for presentation purposes only. That's a test thing. You should never change the age factor, because what will happen is when I did the biofeedback, I have 30 minutes worth of stuff. That's what the recommendation is of frequencies. There's 10 frequencies at 3 minutes apiece to kill whatever it is. That's the recommendation. If I do something to where it only takes 5 minutes, that's not going to be that won't be nearly as effective. So I would never change the age factor except when I'm testing something, and with the program, not with treatment. You should never change it, ever, for treatments. So I hope that makes sense. Okay. Court, do you like hunting scalar mode? It seems easier, especially at night. That's an interesting question. And this isn't a scalar presentation. I've played with it some, but I haven't really used it. But yes, I would like it. I think it's a good one at night. One of the reasons I've never used it is because I share a bed with my wife, and I share a bed with two chihuahuas. And so, and the scalar, when you're doing a biofeedback, it's finding 20, because that's what it does, 20 pathogen or 20 frequencies that were the most response to. But for all I know, those are the fleas or in the chihuahuas. And so I don't use it because of that. In my view, you shouldn't be using hunt and kill in scalar mode unless you're the only one in between them. So that's what I think. I think it's an interesting thing. I know I've seen a lot of people who use it and they find it very effective. But I've never done that, especially at night, because again, I share the bed with so many other animals. But that wouldn't include my wife. She's not an animal, so don't tell her that I said that. All right, so anonymous. I'm a beginner interested in HSV1 and HSV2. I tuned in to learn what equipment I should buy. I downloaded a Rife frequency guide, which lists the frequencies. I've never used the Rife frequency guide. It's all built into the program. I don't know where to begin, especially regarding what equipment do I need to start. HSV. I don't know what HSV is. Do this. Let me stop the sharing. I wish I knew, but that's the way I am. So I'll go look. Hang on a second. You're not. Let's see. Am I showing this? No, I'm not showing any more HSV. What the heck is HSV? So I'll do a search with Google. See what Google thinks it is. Oh, herpes simplified. Nothing. Herpes simplified virus. Okay. Well, For me, it's not, what it boils down to is the, the spooky plasma is the most powerful killing device there is. So if you had a really serious one, it's also the most expensive. And that's what I would definitely recommend for Lyme and for cancer and that sort of stuff. For HSV, I would probably be using, I think what you ought to do for that would be get a GX Pro kit, and which about $1,000. But with that, you can do the biofeedbacks that we've done here tonight, and you can do so you can do the biofeedbacks, and you can decide how you want to do the killing, depending on where it is in your system. You can't use contact mode above your shoulders, no neck, no head, on stuff like that. But there's other treatment modes you can use. It's just you can't do biofeedbacks up there. They can do, if you need to do biofeedbacks or something in your head, you put them right in the back of your shoulders back in. So, I mean, that's the main thing I tend to recommend. If you don't have the budget for that, then you need to be looking at the XM kits. They're less money, but definitely I'd get a kit, of preferably 2 generators, but at least one, and that would be the least amount to spend. So it all depends. I like the GX because of this biofeedback, what we did right now. But the XM kits, I mean, if that's all you can afford, do that. You know, that's, but I definitely get a kit, and preferably with at least 2 generators. But you can do it with one if you want. And most of the killing processes will work. If it's remote, so you're not hooked up at all, you can be anywhere in the world. You know, however you want to do. It'll take the longest, but it will work. I've seen people that have cured cancer with just using remote mode. It's not what I would do, because I worry about how fast it spreads. I'd be using my plasma. I hope that helps you out. Pistol. Can we use using laser instead of plasma? Absolutely. You can use the laser for your treatment mode. That's no problem. So you can do a scan and then use laser as part of that. So it's strictly up to you how you want to use the output from your biofeedback. And again, a lot of times what I tend to do with my biofeedback, because I'm not hooking, a lot of stuff I do with my plasma, I'm not treating major things with. So I'm not doing a hunt and kill. I do a scan, then I use that with whatever I'm going to use it with. That's what I'm doing with everything right now. I haven't done a sample digitizer, or even I did a biofeedback last weekend on this leg problem I have. And I just did a biofeedback on it because I did that, I saved it, and now I'm running remotes on it, or I'm running it in plasma when I sit down, or actually right now I'm sitting on a PEMF coil and I'm running it on that. So I don't, I don't do hunt and kills very often. Okay, so Jen, is it possible to do biofeedback another way without using TENS pads? Yeah, I've seen this. The only way you can do biofeedback without the person there is sample digitizing. And the challenge for that is you need a liquid sample. I see these questions all the time. There's no way to do it with a remote. Okay, well, I know some people have tried it and they liked it, but it's very few and far between. And so but to do remote stuff, there's a sample digitized, but you have to be able to get a sample. So if you're talking about somebody who lives 1,200 miles away, because I actually live in central Mexico where I'm retired. All my family, most of them is in Arizona. And so if I wanted to help them, especially for biofeedback, it would be very difficult because I need a liquid sample. And then it would have to have the pathogen. But generally what I do for remote people, I find out what's wrong with them. I build a remote using what I can find in the programs database, and I treat that way. I hope that helps you out, Ken. Michael. I'm brand new to Spooky. I fear most of this rapid delivery information is being lost on me. I'm not absorbing much at all. Okay, Michael, that's a good point. So there's a couple different things you can do for that. What I prefer if you're brand new is there's some getting started stuff in the first 2 chapters of the user's guide. I'd start there. And if you have questions on, I don't understand what this means, that's a good Facebook post, or you can post on my Telegram, or you can send me an email and I can help you with that. And barring that, if you can't figure any of this out, you need to send me an email and we'll schedule some sort of stuff to get you working on this. Because like I said, it's important to me, the personal goal that everybody who spends the money on Spooky can use it. That's really important from my perspective, right? And so if that means, helping you online, we can get everything up running and get you some basic training in 2 hours straight. Okay, that's my best guess. But I would start with the user's guide and look at the first two chapters in that, because it's pretty good at getting everything hooked up and starting to use things and all that. Okay, Edgar. I know that the session being recorded. Yep. Wondering if it'll be uploaded somewhere I have access to. Yes, it's going to be uploaded to spooky2academy.com event tab. Go there and then click on events. That's spooky2academy.com and then click on events and you'll find it all in there. And you'll find all the other ones that have been done, and you'll find ones that are upcoming that you can register there. That's their central location for all of this stuff. Judy, sorry. My eyes are getting tired this time. I tried the mold link, but it didn't work. Well, I don't know which mold link you're talking about. And so the best thing you can do for that, again, is create something on Facebook and include a picture of what you're trying to do, because that really helps. Or you take a picture again with your camera and you can email to me and I'll tell you what I know. There's a couple. Every time they come out with a release, there's usually a couple bugs in them that have to do with presets. There's one that came out, I think, for mold where it couldn't find a base preset, and that may be what you're talking about. I don't know without a picture, but that happens. And on Facebook, we can help you with that. Certainly, customer support can help you with that. And barring all that, if you don't like Facebook, because a lot of people don't, you can always send me an email with a picture of it. That you just take with your camera. Make sure you get the whole screen and make sure that it's in focus so I can read. So that's the way I handle that. Okay. It takes 7 hours to do a grade scale. No, generally not. It's anonymous. If you can load 7 hours worth of frequencies, but the 7 hours is based on. Oh yeah, thanks, Smalley, for the at Spooky 2 Academy. Yep, that's where you find them. Hopefully everybody saw that, because that's where that stuff, and that's where this one will be. And again, that's where the ones up and coming in the next 4 weeks, they'll be the first things listed, so you can register it. And there's always a lot of very interesting things. There's always a ton of them I want to watch. I never seem to find the time, except for the ones I really like. Back to this. So if you put in 7 hours worth of programs, what that means is if you were to run it with a shell preset, it's going to take 7 hours to go through all those frequencies. However, GradeScan doesn't spend 3 minutes of frequency. It's going to take, if we do a grade scan, it's going to take minutes, maybe 10 or 20 at the very most, to go through and grade those things. Because all it's going to do is we're going to run the frequency for maybe a minute or 30 seconds or whatever it is. I can't remember the details of it because I've never really measured it, because it's really fast. And then it's going to give you a list of how many frequencies you wanted, so you can do just the frequencies that are the biggest responders. So that's the deal. It shouldn't take 7 hours to do it unless you add every program in the whole thing. Anonymous, can anyone TENS pads biofeedback scans on people who have a pacemaker? No. Or ocular implant or vagus nerve stimulating. Okay. So here's the deal. Anything with contact mode, you shouldn't run on anybody with electronics in their body. That's what it boils down to. That's the bottom line. And maybe that'll work, maybe, but you have to be really careful. I have a friend with a pacemaker, and it would probably work, but if it doesn't, she'll die. And so it's the bottom line of this is you should never run contact mode on anybody with a pacemaker or with electronics in their body, because it can interfere with that stuff. So what can you do? Well, you can use a sample digitizer and use a sample. You can use the scalar digitizer, because that, even though it does it's a scalar field, and that shouldn't interfere with any of that stuff. So that's the bottom line to that. Up to you what you do, but I wouldn't do it. I would not run. I wouldn't run it on anybody with that. The most I do it is I'd run it on myself because I'd experiment on me, but I'm not going to experiment on anybody else. And even that, if I had a pacemaker, I'm probably not going to risk burning out the pacemaker or causing damage to the pacemaker just to see if I can do spooky there. So that's my view on that, and that's the official view on it. Then, can you take the hits found in a grade scan and run them a hunt kill while it is looking above and below? Can you take the hits found in a grade scan and run them in hunt kill type mode? Well, I'm not sure I totally understand that. I mean, that's why you did the grade scan. I think you're talking about you want to regrade the grade scan. And you actually can do that if you saved the, you gotta think about that. There's a way to do that, but it's relatively complex, more complex than what I want to try to describe to you. I think you could do that. What I would be doing is I'd be running the grade scan again. One of the things you can do, if you came up with a list of 40 programs that you wanted to run with a grade scan, and you say, but I want to run this again maybe in 2 weeks, the same ones, and I'm not going to remember what they are because I won't remember tomorrow what I put in there. What you can do is when you can find all these things, you can add them to the programs. Let me do that. Share screen. What you can do with that is come to here. And so let me move this out of the way. So we have this list in programs here, all these cold programs. Right. These are biofeedback heads. So let's go do this again. Let's go, that's because I did. Let's go back to cold. And so we have all this stuff. And suppose I put in this one, and I'm not going to do a bunch of them. I'll just do whatever will be. I've decided that I want to do all these things in my grade scan. And I want to do a grade scan on all these things again next week. What I can do is I can save this right down here as a loaded program. And I can say my grade programs. And as of today, which is 7 to 45, sorry. All right, so I'm going to save that over here. Yes, I'm going to save it. And then what I can do, back to presets, and we'll do the grade scan, and go to programs, and we're going to do my the search facility in Tugi is not that great. This is right here. Then I can just add that in, so they're all in there. So that's one way if you want to do that, you can sort of do that way. And I've suggested that for a number of people in unique situations. All right, so that's what you know. So that's what I would do for that. Okay, Pamela, what would be the best sample for the prostate? I would use urine for that. I mean, urine's going to pass through the prostate, so I'm going to assume it's going to pick up stuff there. That's what I do. That's how I do that. Pamela, second question. Same one. Okay, Tom. I have a scalar unit. How does this compare to the pro scans? Can I substitute scalar scan in the cancer protocol for a pro scan? I would not. I know that the problem is that the scalar only scans from 500 hertz to 50,000 hertz. And all the pathogens are really at about 80,000 and up. So what that means is when if it's going to find pathogens, and it can find more than that. It's one of the advantages of the scalar scan. It can find, oh, your liver is responding to this, so we need to do liver stuff, okay? That sort of thing. So it'll do more than just pathogens, but it'll detect pathogens, but it's doing it by doing a scan of a subharmonic. So, if you had 100,000 hertz, okay, that was a pathogen that you have, it's not going to scan 100,000 hertz. It'll scan 50,000 hertz. And so it's a harmonic of that, but it's not as accurate. I wouldn't do that for cancer. I just wouldn't. And I would, to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't use the scalar for treating cancer either. I think it's great as a healing device, and that's what it's best at. As a killing device, it ain't that great, in my opinion, because it's trying to kill things using a harmonic rather than directly the direct frequency. That's just the way I see that. I mean, and that's just my personal opinion. So hopefully that helps you out. I would not substitute. It sounds like a good idea, but and you certainly could be at night doing a hunt and kill, but frankly, for cancer, you should be doing cancer protocol at night on a plasma. I don't know if you have a plasma. So if I didn't have a plasma, then I'd probably be running contact mode at night, because contact mode is the second most powerful and remote mode would be the least powerful, but they all work. So keep that in mind. Okay. I can't pronounce your name. Hargin. Harginder? Whatever. I'm sorry. Do you do a biofeedback using a plasma in the? No, you use biofeedback with the TENS paths or the sample digitizer. And then you use the frequencies it found, you use the plasma to go kill those frequencies, the pathogens or frequencies. So that's the way it works. So you can't actually use the plasma. No, you can't use the plasma anyway in the actual biofeedback. Use it in the treatment phase. Pamela, yeah, like I said, we answered this one for you, Pamela. You'll find that I think that urine will work great because it goes through there. If it's not going through there, you have another problem. Let's see. Jaro. I can't remember. I'm sorry. Why some users use the analyze button to save a second time? Okay. Let me do this again. Share screen. Okay, what the analyze? So here's the analyze button down here. Get to it. Control. What he's talking about is, and one of the things I didn't cover because it's a semi-advanced topic, that's the reason I didn't do it, is if we select the generator, down here, there's the analyze and analyze plus. Analyze is current, analyze plus is angle plus current. What that does, if I do an analyze, it brings up the actual raw information of all these scans I've done. So I can go back here and look at this cold one here, and I can do an analyze that I did back in February. And there's a lot of reasons I may want to do that. I want to don't throw it in right now, but this is one of the ways you can do it. I'm going to analyze that. All it does is it does the same thing. It's going to go through and say, here's the, it's because I have this thing set to 0 or 20 or whatever. It's going to go through. Let me fix that. I drive you crazy. Max sets define 10. It did that. It did the 0 because the last thing I did was a sample digitizer or whatever I did. And so let's do that again. Analyze and hold. So it'll give me those 10. I actually use it occasionally. The reason I use it is because I do the biofeedback and I forget every time to click angle and current. Okay, so I can go back and say, rather than running the whole thing over, I can do an analyze plus, and I can select the raw file, which is back here, the cold, and it'll give me the plus version of it instead, and then I can save it to my eyes. That's where I usually use it for. There's another way you can use it. If you have more than one spooky machine, there's a way to use that, because if you do a scan on computer 1 and you have computer 2, how do you get the scan data or the save stuff to computer 2? That's a whole nother discussion, but some people use it for that, and I've used it for that as well. Stop share. So I hope that answers your question, Jim. All right, back to this. Lanisha, I hope. When I ran BFB scan and run, I don't like it. Yep, you're not going to get the 10 frequencies. It runs, yes, that's correct. It does not. So you can't correct it. That's the way it runs. So what scan and run is, which is different, scan and run doesn't have the hunt part of hunt kill. So it does a scan that takes 19 minutes, and then it does a run of 30 minutes. And then it does a scan of 19 minutes and a run of 30 minutes, and so on and so forth. That's the way it works. And yes, it works just like that. And no, well, what you can do is if you do that, you can actually use the analyze stuff I just showed to go back and get the frequencies if you want to do that. But it doesn't give you the option to save. That's just the way it works. So I hope that answers your question. I wish I could tell you more what you want, but that's the best I can do. Court. Oh, thank you, Court. Misty. You speak very well. Thank you for your time. I learned a lot from your Zooms. Thank you very much, Misty. Michelle. I have to go now. Yeah, that's been. Thank you, Smalley. Yep. Thank you very much for attending. Again, you're welcome to contact me if you have any questions. You know, people are bailing us out of this moment. Christy, when using a remote for something you want to run long term, is it better to leave it and run till you want to shut it down, or occasionally start the program well? Okay, so when you're using a remote for treating, so let's talk about it from a BFB point of view. Let's start there. So from a biofeedback point of view, you're in a biofeedback, and I would run the remote with the results for probably about a week, and then 5 to 7 days, and then I do a new scan and run it again. Now, if you're running stuff out of the programs database, there's something called frequency fatigue. That usually takes longer. I would probably take a day break after, to be honest, from 2 to 4 weeks. That's the way I see it. So that's just my approach to that. Your mileage may vary. One of the things that practitioners may know, they have a tendency to change the DNA sample at least once a month. That is not the official spooky thing at the moment. The official spooky view is that they're good for years. And I know people have used them for years and they were happy with it. And I know practitioners that say, look, if I don't change them in 3 to 4 weeks, if I change them in 3 to 4 weeks, it's more effective. Your mileage may vary again. I have people that I'm treating in Phoenix right now who are 1,200 miles away. And the best I have is something I got when I was there in August. It's just the way it is. And so you have to do what you have. So that's what I tend to do. If you're going from the programs stuff, I'd probably take a rest and do something else for a few days, maybe just some basic stuff, and then kick it off again. If you're doing it from a biofeedback, I would run it for up to a week, and then I'd run it a week in remote mode, then I'd shut it down, do another scan, and run it again for a week. Jim, where in Mexico do you live? I live about 20 miles south of Guadalajara in a place called Chapala. It's along Lake Chapala. That's where I live. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to discuss that one. Let's see. Dan, okay, good. Thank you very much. Anonymous, I lived in Ajijic for 5 years. Yeah, well, I know that feeling. We started in Ajijic, but we moved to Palm. We own a house here. So we're here for the long, and we've been in the house for 7 years. We're here for the long term. I hope wherever you move back isn't a problem, because most people that move back because either health issues or they want to be close to family. Hopefully none that apply to you. Pamela, thank you, Michael. Fantastic. Yeah, clarify different scans. I'm sorry it went so long, but there was a lot to cover and I felt it was important to do. I like to do about 30 to 40 minutes and a lot of questions. But I wanted everybody to understand basic biofeedback, GX, and hunt and kill stuff and sample digitizer stuff. And hunt and kill. Those are the things that were important. And that takes a long time. All right, Christine, for tooth problems, placement of TENS bands on the upper shoulders, yes. That's why I do it. Is it effective? What's the best treatment modality and location? Okay, so for tooth problems, yes. Well, for tooth problems, there's some pretty good tooth programs out there already. And so I don't know that you need to do a scan. What I would do for tooth problems, if you have an infection sort of thing, I would use saliva and I do a sample digitizer because the bacteria and stuff is going to be in there. That's what I would do. I like the sample digitizer for that sort of stuff. If you do want to do contact mode, yes, it's right behind the shoulders up here. That's the best you can do for the sample digitizer. And so it'll detect everything up there. Treatment stuff. Well, there's several things that I've used for tooth problems, and I found them both to be effective. One of them is a laser twin, which I don't have one down here at the moment. And you can take that laser, and I've done this, and actually put it in your mouth next to the tooth. You can use, I just use one of them, put the cover on it, and it'll be fine. So you can do that. I've actually used the PEMF coil on the outside. That works as well. I found that effective as well for whatever I'm doing. Those are the two things I would do for teeth. Obviously, you can use a remote if you want, because you can reuse a remote for anything. Obviously, and if you have serious problems and you have a plasma, you can always use the plasma ball or the tube against your face and treat that way. So there's lots of different ways to handle that. What you can't do is contact mode above the shoulders. That's on the treatment side or the BFB side. Okay, Anonymous. As a newbie, this has been fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Leanne, when you talk about mileage and taking a rest for 2 to 4 weeks, no, I would never stop the line protocol. Not ever. The line protocol, you're changing it up every 3 days, anyway, or every day, depending on what you're doing. So no, that's the same as the cancer protocol. The cancer protocol, if you take a break from it, cancer regroups. And so the stuff that you were doing Monday that was very effective, and then they took 3 days off, the cancer regroups. And now when you restart again Thursday, it doesn't work as well. And you did a setback is what happened. So as far as Lyme, no, the Lyme stuff, follow the protocol, and there ain't no breaks. You do them all the time. So the worst case scenario on Lyme is that if you need to take a break or you're not going to be at home, if you're using the stuff where you're changing every 3 days or whatever you were running, leave it running on the remote. You want to keep running it all the time. I know that. Okay. Christine's in San Miguel. Feel free to drop me a line and we'll connect any way you want to, because it's always good to have relatively close spooky friends. Okay, I don't have any more Q&As, I don't think. Okay, that was the last Q&A. So thank you for your time. Helps my understanding. Also, using the black mouse. Yeah, when I actually do a tech help desk at the local American Legion. So I'm there for like 4 hours on Tuesday. People bring in anything. And if they bring in a computer, the first thing I do is I change the pointer. I make it bigger and it's black because I cannot find the white ones at all. That just doesn't work. So that's why I'm using the black. All right, so, and we're at 2 hours now. So are there any other questions? I'll talk for a few minutes in case we have anybody else. Let's see, I don't know who we have. Yeah, I actually have a Telegram group for the Chapala area. So if you send me a message, I can add you to that. And it's not very active because people here are pretty self-sufficient. But there's several people that have plasmas and everything else. So if you want to connect up on that, send me an email. How many times to run a biofeedback? For the same thing, I'd run a biofeedback and then I'd do a treatment for it for 3 days if I'm doing plasma, up a week if I'm doing remote, 5 days if I'm doing contact mode. That's what I tend to do. And then I'd run the biofeedback again. If you're talking about successive biofeedbacks, there's actually, because you want it to be more accurate, that's what there's a couple different modes you can do that are built in. Share, we're going to this guy. If you go into presets, biofeedback, and we'll use generator X. If you look at, well, if you use general biofeedback, what you can do is you can change, overwrite, you can change this. What samples and steps and loops do. Samples and steps is, okay, for each frequency, I'm going to do this 1 time. But what if I want to do each one 3 times? I could do that and notice that it changed the duration to 56 minutes. But it goes through the whole list of frequencies once, or I could change that to 2. Now it's 1 hour and 53 minutes because it's going to double the time. So if you want to do multiples to make it more accurate, you can do that. That's the easiest way to do that. And it used to work like that. But people are more interested in speed than accuracy, and they don't have the patience. If you're sitting there watching a movie, it may as well take 1 hour or 2 to do it. That's the way I stop this. Hopefully that answered your question. Can you please post here your email? I can't do it here, but let me see, where's the chat? Chat. I think she's done it already, but well, there it is. And this is Yeah, looks right. Okay, that's it. So we're done now. Chat. All right, done. And where can I find PowerPoint person for manuals and all different types of programs? Well, the PowerPoint for this will be available at Spooky 2 Academy, spooky2academy.com/events/event list, event dash list, wherever it is, but it's in events. You'll find there's an entry for this presentation, and when they put the video out there, there'll also be something you click so you can download the presentation. So it'll be a PDF version, which is what we'll do. That's where we'll do that. The manual on all types of programs. I personally like the user's guide, and the easiest way to get to that, share application window here in, come on, baby. There we go. We're in here. If we go to help up here and say user's guide, it'll open the user's guide. And so it's not perfect, believe me, because the spooky people, well, they're not software developers, and they're definitely not doc writers, and they don't update things as well as often as they should, and really with the videos. But having said that, there's lots of stuff in here, and it mostly works. So especially this one and part 2, that's the best place. If you're new, you should become very familiar with all this. And if you want to read through the technical guide, or at least browse through it, that's okay, just so you know what's in there. But for the most part, the right system and part 2 are the best places to start, in my opinion. And they'll answer a lot of questions. And if you don't understand them, feel free to contact me, and I can help you understand what it means. And don't forget, and like I said, while I do one-on-one stuff, I answer emails and questions on Facebook and all that all the time. That there's no charge for me. Okay. Okay, so I don't have any open questions left. Let's see what we got. So we'll give you another 2 or 3 minutes to think up more stuff. Hopefully, Smalley answered all the Q&As. See the chat at the moment. I'll stand here and answer questions all night. But that's because I get such an adrenaline boost from doing these presentations. So my problem is I'm not going to go to sleep for 2 hours. So, anything else? Anything else from anybody? Well, I think that's it. So I appreciate everybody hanging on to the end and answered all the questions I have. Again, feel free to email me or get in. See, think of these. What is a sweep used for? Okay, sweeps are really cool things. Sweeps say I want to use frequencies from A to B. That's a sweep. Okay, and the reason you do that is some things live within a frequency band, and a lot of people really like sweeps because you say, it's these. For instance, there's some cancer sweeps out there because these are the frequencies that are known to be cancer related, and they only do this amount. So that's why sweeps exist. But there's always a but. One of the things that nobody's brought up yet is you can use the generator X in offline mode. But the generator X in offline mode, that means without a computer, has a bunch of limitations in it. And one of them is it doesn't do sweeps. So you've got to have a computer hooked up to do a sweep. But that's what they're there. And if you look, some of the programs, some of the canned programs have sweeps built in for whatever. I know there's Lime ones that have a sweep as part of some of the Lime programs and all that, because it's like, well, it's best to hit all the frequency between X and Y. That's what a sweep is. Hope that answers your question. Lee, okay, can you do biofeedback on an XM generator? That's a pulse. That's what that is. So what that means here, let me close this. I don't need him anymore. If we go to presets, let me look here. So we're going to biofeedback. That is the spooky pulse. Yes, you can do that. However, to do that, you need to have the spooky pulse which is as equipment. And if you bought an XM kit that was just XM, it came with it. And with that, because it measures your pulse, either with an ear clip or a finger clip. And so the way that works is that you use the generator with TENS pads, and that sends frequencies into your body. And you can use specific areas, or you can do a whole body. And then what the Spooky 2 software does, it measures the differences in your heartbeat to see how your body's responding. The downside of that is it takes about an hour to do a scan, and you're not supposed to move. And you're supposed to lay there for an hour as still as absolutely possible, because every time you move, it's going to change your heart rate slightly, and it's measuring the flight. That's one of the reasons that people prefer the GX generator for biofeedback, is because the heart rate doesn't matter. I can hook it up and I can sit there and 19 minutes later it's done or whatever. And plus it has a sample digitizer and all that. So yes, you can do it. Some people prefer it, by the way. They think it's more accurate because it's been around a lot longer. So that's the way that works. And that's what this quarter scans, what that is it's broken into 5 different scans. Gee, if I can only sit there for 12 or 15 minutes at a time, you can do this. But again, it's going to take a long time to get through them all. And by the way, since it's measuring your heartbeat, if your heartbeat isn't really a steady sort of heartbeat, then that can affect the accuracy and the length of time it takes. So that's the way that works. Manisha, when using the biofeedback, when I do biofeedback using 10 pads, they burn my skin. That'd be really unusual. I've not heard of that. I mean, I've heard of people burning skins when they're doing the treatment with biofeedback, but never with their treatment, the frequency. But I've never heard of anybody burning the skin while doing a biofeedback. Yes, you could reduce the amplitude if you want to do that, but and that's certainly you've got the same question here again at low power. So let's see, am I sharing this? Yes, I'm still sharing it. So let's go into this. Biofeedback, generator X, general biofeedback scan. So if you do that and you go into settings, up here where it says amplitude, where it says 20 volts, you could change this to 10. So it's half the voltage. Oops. You could certainly do that, or 5 or whatever. I mean, if it's burning your skin, then you'll probably respond at a lower one anyway. But that's how you change it. Once you change the settings, then you go to the control tab and you run it. So if we go here, over at generator 3, we do a scan. We don't care. And it should, see, it's running at 10 volts now. So that's how you change the amplitude. Again, like I've never heard of it burning skin on TENS pads. And make sure you're using fresh TENS pads, because one of the things that can happen with burning your skin, if it spreads the voltage out over the entire pad. So over the entire pad, okay? But suppose it's a defective pad and it only has a little bitty area that's making contact, all the voltage is going through there. So make sure you use a new pad. So whether it's effective or not, I can't answer. There's no way I can answer that. You can try it and see what it does. I mean, I don't. I've never heard of it before, of somebody doing biofeedback with a lower amplitude. But I would certainly use new pads and see if that makes a difference. And obviously, if it starts burning you, you should feel that, and you need to stop it, because it shouldn't do that. Okay, so I answered that one, and answered that one. Okay. Do we have any other questions? Stop the share. Chat again. That's a fair point. You should not be using the boost, in my opinion. I mean, some people do use the boost, but it's not a mainline thing. It's not mainstream. People don't usually do that. You should hook it directly. You should take the boost off and connect directly to outline. So Manisha, are you can answer this one live. So it's the size of the TENS paths. Oh, that's interesting. So it's not that sort of connection. Are you connected directly to out one? Now that would be my question for you. And you can answer that in the chat if you want to dial it up. That's it. That's odd. That to me, what I think is happening, if you really want to know, is I think what's happening is you have a skin issue that it's super sensitive, and maybe you don't get the adhesive. That being the case, there's several other options you can do. Number one, you can buy bigger TENS pads. Not for, yeah, even Spooky has them, but I'd go down to your local pharmacy and get bigger TENS pads. I mean, I get my TENS pads from Amazon.com. So you can get bigger ones and try that because it spreads it out. Or what you can do, but you got to be careful with this, you can actually use the hand cylinders you have those. The hard part about the hand cylinders is they're not a fixed amount. They're not a how much you squeeze them or whatever changes the resistance and will make a difference in your settings, that in the detection. So if you want to try to use those, you can, but you have to figure out a way to where they're going to be fixed amount. If that was in my leg and I wanted to scan my thigh, I'd end up putting the hand cylinders on either side and wrap some stuff around it and hold them in place and not move them while they're there. But that's another possibility. But like I said, it could be a reaction to your skin and to the adhesive. But there's no way to fix that other than using bigger pads. That's the best I can offer for that. So that's hopefully, and I'd like to hear more about it on Facebook or send me an email because I've never heard that before. And I'd like to see what happens. But yes, I mean, if it's really burning you and it's not because of any of those other problems, then I'd reduce the amplitude and see what kind of results it. I mean, you may just have a low body resistance, and it's running a voltage through there. So the lower your body resistance, the more current, which is what actually burns you, goes through your body. And so maybe you have a really low body resistance, in which case 10 volts or 5 volts won't burn you, and it would be just as effective for you. Everybody's different. That's what I always tell everybody. You can use a colloidal. I would not use the colloidal port for that. But one of the things that was said when you're doing a treatment with TENS pads, you can use the colloidal silver port. And the way it works, it just has a resistor in line, literally, to reduce the capability of amperage going through there. And so it's going to impact the generator's ability to read how you're responding. What I would do, literally, if it was giving me this, I'd go in and reduce the amplitude. That's what I would recommend. I avoid translators. Okay, so and so you're using the scaler, and the scalers. I like the scaler for biofeedback. I like it because it's fast. It takes about 8 minutes. I just put together some notes on it today because I ran one today. So I haven't used it yet, but I ran one today because I just wanted to do it. So, oh yeah, your skin is sensitive. Yeah. So certainly, if you have the scaler, that's a great alternative as long as you don't have a bed full of chihuahuas. Okay, because you can't have anything else, that's alive on the bed in between the field at the same time. So, but if you want to use contact mode, if you're really sensitive, I'd take it down to 5 volts and see what happens. And if it starts hurting, it's too high. Okay. So let's see if we have anything else, because I almost shut down before. Anything else? Yeah, let me know. I want to know what happened. Write down my email address and let me know what you do with that. I'd really like to know. I've never heard of that before, and I'm always interested in learning everything I can, especially since I answer so many questions on Facebook. Okay, so anything else? All right, thanks a lot. All right. So do we have anything else that people want to bring up? Any spooky subjects? I'm going to avoid any other subjects, but anything spooky, I'll do my best to answer. How many people still have? Still have 105 participants. Wow. You guys are in this for the long haul. Okay. Anything else at all? Anything? Be sure and send me an email if you have some things that you don't understand. I can answer with an email, or you think that we need to see, well, I need to see a presentation on this. Whatever that is, if I'll either find one for you or I'll figure out a way to do something on that particular topic. hopefully with Spooky. Although I've actually done private seminars before. But they don't like it when I do them. Although I only talk about spooky stuff, but, so, all right, I guess that's it for tonight.